He was a quiet farmer who rarely spoke, avoided crowds, and preferred the solitude of the forests of Karelia. And yet, this same man would become one of the most efficient snipers in recorded history, feared by an entire invading army and known by a name that would echo for decades: the White Death. His enemies claimed he could blend into the snow itself, that he appeared and vanished without leaving a trace, and that not even the harshest winter could slow him down. His record is so extreme that many still debate whether a single human being could truly achieve what was attributed to him. But he did. And the most shocking part, he accomplished nearly all of it in just 100 days. Before we reach the moment when his reputation reached mythical levels, we need to go back to where it began, to a young man living a simple life, unknowingly preparing for one of the most brutal conflicts in his nation's history. Simo Häyhä was born in 1905 in rural Finland, in a small village surrounded by dense forests, freezing lakes, and long winters that shaped the rhythm of life. His family lived off farming and hunting, and from a very young age he became familiar with the quiet patience of tracking animals, the precision required to survive, and the discipline to endure the cold. Finland at that time was not yet the nation it would become, and its people were hardened by nature itself. The environment demanded resilience, and Simo grew up learning how to move silently through snow, how to shoot without hesitation, and how to read the landscape as if it were a book written only for those who spent years outdoors. Those early skills, learned not out of ambition but necessity, would later become the very foundation of his battlefield mastery. As he reached adulthood, Simo joined the Finnish Civil Guard, a volunteer defense organization that trained civilians in marksmanship and survival. There, he practiced shooting with dedication that stood out even among skilled locals. But he did not just practice frequently. He practiced intelligently. He experimented with breath control, stability, and sight alignment, refining his technique to near mechanical consistency. He favored older iron sight rifles because he trusted them more than scopes, which could fog up or glare in the sunlight. He had no idea that this preference would one day give him a crucial advantage in the deadliest winter Finland had ever faced. And as Europe descended into political tension in the 1930s, Simo continued living quietly, unaware of the unimaginable challenge that awaited him. Years later, soldiers would whisper stories about a figure who remained almost invisible on the battlefield. They said he didn't need a scope, that he used only iron sights to avoid reflections that could give away his position. They said he could stay in the snow without moving for hours, and that even the cold seemed incapable of touching him. And although many of these stories sounded exaggerated, they were built on very real moments that would soon unfold in the Winter War. But before all of that happened, Simo was still just a farmer and a hunter, preparing to defend his home with a level of precision that no one at the time could predict would be so devastating. In November 1939, the Soviet Union launched a massive invasion against Finland. The Red Army expected a swift victory, believing that their overwhelming numbers and equipment would crush Finnish resistance within weeks. What they did not anticipate was how fiercely the Finns would fight, nor how well they understood their own terrain. Unlike the Soviet troops, who struggled with the extreme cold, the Finns were accustomed to the environment and used it as their greatest ally. Dense forests, deep snow, and sub-zero temperatures created conditions where mobility was limited and visibility inconsistent. For most soldiers, this environment was a nightmare, but for Simo, it was home. Simo was assigned as a sniper and soon began using every skill he had learned throughout his life. He wore full white camouflage, blended into snowbanks, packed ice into his mouth to prevent visible breath, and built small snow mounds in front of his rifle to stabilize it while hiding the smoke. These techniques made him extremely hard to spot, even at close range. Soviet soldiers soon realized that something was wrong when entire patrols failed to return, and rumors began to spread that a phantom sniper was hunting them. They attempted counter-sniper tactics, artillery strikes, and even sent specialized teams to track him. None succeeded. Simo remained undetected again and again, removing one intruder after another with absolute precision. As the days passed, word of the mysterious Finnish marksman spread through Soviet ranks. Commanders grew frustrated and began assigning entire groups just to find him, only to suffer more losses. Soldiers became fearful of moving through open terrain, knowing that an unseen rifle could fire at any moment. The legend of the White Death was forming long before Simo himself even knew what he was being called, and yet he kept working silently, focused on defending his home. This growing tension would soon lead to larger confrontations, and within weeks the full scale of his impact would become undeniable. The Winter War intensified, with thousands of Soviet troops pushing deeper into Finnish territory. But the more pressure they applied, the more effectively Simo adapted. He learned to predict Soviet patterns, anticipate ambush attempts, and choose positions with maximum visibility while staying almost completely hidden. He preferred close to mid-range engagements where he could ensure accuracy, often striking before anyone realized a sniper was present. Meanwhile, Finland documented his confirmed hits, and the numbers began to climb rapidly. In an environment where most soldiers struggled to survive even a single day, Simo was achieving results that seemed impossible. And yet, despite the fear he instilled in enemy forces, he remained humble, saying little about his success and attributing everything to practice and preparation. Soon his reputation grew beyond the battlefield. Commanders, journalists, and foreign observers heard about the Finnish soldier who had become a one-man defensive wall. Reports claimed he had over 200 confirmed hits, then 300, and eventually more than 500 in just around 100 days. Whether every number is exact or not, the scale of his impact is undeniable. He slowed entire Soviet advances and forced them to change tactics, all while operating under some of the harshest winter conditions in recorded military history. But this extraordinary streak could not last forever, and the moment that nearly ended his life was approaching. In early March 1940, during one of the final phases of the Winter War, Simo was hit by an explosive round that tore through his lower face. Fellow soldiers carried him away, severely wounded and unrecognizable. Many assumed he had died, but he survived, unconscious for days, waking on the very day the war ended. His recovery was long and difficult, involving multiple surgeries, and although his face never fully returned to how it was, Simo continued to live humbly after the war. He never sought fame, never dramatized his experiences, and rarely spoke about what he had done. Instead, he returned to farming, hunting, and quietly living in the countryside, far from the attention that had gathered around his wartime record. Simo Häyhä lived to the age of 96, spending his final decades in peace. Far removed from the battlefield that had defined his legend. He carried physical and emotional scars, but he also carried the same simplicity that marked his early years. When asked how he became so effective, he gave a short answer: practice. When asked how he felt about his record, he simply said he had done what he was told. And when asked if he regretted anything, he quietly replied, "I did what I had to do." His story remains one of discipline, resilience, and skill taken to an extreme level. The story of a man who became a symbol not because he sought it, but because extraordinary circumstances forced him to become something far beyond ordinary.